Welcome to another review from Mega Train Lover, and today is the first of 3 presents that I got for my birthday. The first train we're looking at is, as you can see, a Hornby railroad locomotive, which is digital TTS sound, and it is, as you can see, a Class 47. Now, this really needs no introduction. Class 47s, there were 512 of them built between 1962 and 1968, and they were the most numerous mainline diesel locomotive in Britain. Not the most numerous diesel locomotive, that distinction belongs to the Class 08 with 996 built, but as the Class 08s are shunters and these are mainline diesel locomotives, it's a different story. So 512 Class 47s were built, the most numerous British mainline diesel locomotive ever. And some are still in service. In fact, a lot of them have been scrapped, but some are still in service, which is really quite fascinating considering, they're not modern anymore. But they are very reliable, very, very reliable. And of course they are diesel electrics, and they have a Coco wheel arrangement. And this particular is numbered 47401. If we turn to the side, its product code is R3287TTS. It's a BR Class 47 47401 with DTS sound, and of course it's decoder fitted. And it was £84.99, and I think that's a really good price actually, for considering the fact that it's TTS sound. That's one of the, it has sound. Usually sound locomotives cost over £100, but then this, for less than £100, is really good. That's the benefits of TTS sound. It's basically DCC sound on a budget. But anyway, let's get the engine out, shall we? So, typical Hornby box. It slides open like so, and let's just put the box to one side, and immediately we're met with 2 instruction sheets. Now this one is one which we're all familiar with. It's the instructions on how to maintain the locomotive, everything. So where to put the lubrication, how to remove the body, blah blah. Don't throw this out though. Even though you've seen this a million times, never ever throw this out. If you need to maintain your locomotive and you don't have this, you'll have no idea. You're gonna be stuck. So always keep this. The second sheet is just basically all the instructions on the sound system. So here you have all the functions. There are a total of 26 functions. Function 0 is for the lights, although there are no lights pre-fitted. You have to fit those yourself. And then you have, I can only use up to function 8 on my Hornby Select controller. But you get the engine start up, which is function 1, and then stop. And then that's basically the basic sounds. And you get the horns, the brake squeal, notch up, thrash, everything. And then you've got extra sounds like the compressor, door slam, fan, Spirax valve, everything. And then you fold this out and it gives you tons of information all about CV configurations, decoders, blah, wow. So loads of information on what is essentially such a, it's not very big leaflet. If you look at it like this, it's not that big, but it's got loads of information in it. But yeah, and you should keep this as well, because it's important. Anyway, but here's the main article. So now this would have sellotape on it, but I've already opened this and given it a test run, but I've just put it back in the box to show you, what comes with it. But really, there's nothing much coming with it. So you just lift off this flap, and then you get the 2 holes at the back, which you have to push. You get this, and the engine is protected with this nice styrofoam inlay, as you can see. Let's put the box to one side, and here is the locomotive. Well, where do I start? Well, let's get the bad things out of the way first. For a start, it's quite basic. It is a railroad model, but it is quite basic. There are no lights but you can drill holes and fit your own, which is good. The buffers are not sprung, and it does look pretty much like one gigantic molded piece. Like, you know, you can see those fans, they're fake. Well, it's quite nicely textured actually. The roof looks quite basic as well, but the detail on this is quite basic. I mean, you know, it is a railroad model after all. But having said that, it is really nice. Oh, the camera's focusing. I love the livery. This is the BR blue with the large logo livery. I love that. And there's its number, 47401. That's large and clear as well. And obviously you get the yellow ends, just like with every British locomotive. And this here is the unpowered bogie, and you can tell because its turning radius is quite generous. And this is the powered bogie, and its turning radius is more limited. Although do not bend this too much, because otherwise you would break the wires, because it does pick up current. In terms of weight, it's not too heavy, but it's not too light either. But it does have traction tyres. If you just see, there's one on this wheel, and then there's one on this wheel for extra haulage power, which is quite good. DCC fitted, and the couplings are NEM, even though they don't look like it. But you can pull this out, and you can see it's a dovetail connector, so you can fit your own couplings. Actually, I'm going to leave this, because this will be the front of the locomotive. I think this is the direction it goes in, because that is where the fan is after all. But really, this does not have a front and back, because it can be driven from either end. But let's just consider this the front of the engine, because that's where the fans are. But yeah, so overall it is quite basic, but I do like it. You know, it is really nice. And the fact that it's TTS sound does make up for its basicness. It is a nice model, you know, and it will go very well with my Mark II rake, which you may have seen in, I think it was in, I made a video the other day with my Class 25 pulling the Mark II coaches. Although this is what I will use more frequently to pull the Mark II coaches, as these were more, it's more suited to it, isn't it? You know, these were mixed traffic. They could be used for either passengers or freight. I know the Class 25s were pretty much mixed traffic as well, but these were much more versatile. You know, the 512 of them were built. It was one of those engines which basically you can run from, but you couldn't hide. But you couldn't hide from them because there were just so many of them. It's unbelievable. And they're still in service. Some of them are still in service now, not just in preservation, but even in regular service. I think some of them are still in service with DRS. You know, for like higher trains and stuff, or like for rescue Thunderbird operations. And of course, a few of them have been modified into Class 57s, where they kept the body shell, but then they swapped the engines. So they replaced the brush engines with the General Electric, well, General Motors engines, I think. Well, it's one of the General ones. And I think they even changed the traction motors as well. But yeah, so you know, it's a very iconic locomotive, as you can see. You know, you look at that front end, you can instantly recognise as a Class 47. But yeah, so overall, it's basic, but I really do like it. But let's just see how it runs.
So here we have the Class 47 on the track. Now I'm not going to place it on the track because I've spent far too much time trying to place it on the track and then actually getting the sound to work. So yeah, it's a little bit tedious, this one, but hopefully it will improve itself. But anyway, let's hear the horns. Wow, that sounded very accurate. Now let's see it running. wow, considering how tedious she was, she's actually running really well. As you see, there are no lights.
You can fit your own, and then wire it up to the decoder if you wish to do so. But yeah, she's running very well. Let's get a few line sight shots. So yeah, she's running very well. And her sound is pretty accurate considering how cheap she was. But yeah, well, yeah, she was, well, and by cheap I mean, you know, cheap compared to DCC sound, but just because TTS sounds cheaper doesn't mean it sounds more rubbish. No, it's actually really nice. Very nice indeed. I'm pleased. I'm very pleased with her, despite how tedious she was with at first. But yeah. So in conclusion, I would definitely recommend her. You know, if you're a fan of Class 47s, definitely recommend her. But a 47 is a must-have. And despite how basic she is and how troublesome she was at first with putting it on the track and then with the sound, I'm very pleased with her. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next review. Goodbye.